for March's Scrap 5, as well as I'm using the Day 12 sketch for Christy's 30 Days of Sketches with Christy's Beautiful Life. The sketch was created by Whitaker, and I showed it to you there at the beginning. You'll see I do reference it a couple times because I don't fully stick to it, but that's okay. That's the beauty of sketches, and I know I've said this before. I just really love the inspiration. It kind of gives you a starting off point, and then sometimes you create something that looks exactly like the sketch, and sometimes you create something that looks nothing like the sketch. But Laura's sketch was definitely a great jumping off point to kind of get me motivated and inspired to go ahead and create this layout. So the 5 things that I have to work with for the month of March, I'm doing number 1 and number 5 right now. So number 1 was use some sort of cut file or die cut, something along those lines, whether it's sort of a manual cut, die cut, or you use your Silhouette or your Cricut and you cut something out, or probably even if you purchase something, whatever you kind of want to interpret that as. So my background paper actually has some images cut out of it. This was cut out with a Silhouette, I think. A friend of mine gave me a whole bunch of pages that she wasn't going to be using that are die cut like this or are actual like cut files. So I thought this one would work really good, and I kind of like how it's a little bit girly with the pinks, and I liked the patterns, so I thought I'd go ahead and use that. And then the 5th thing on our list of 5 is to use a technique that intimidates you. And you guys know there are 2 things that sort of always give me trouble or that intimidate me more than anything else. One of them is heat embossing. Why? I don't know why. I make a mess. Things don't work. It always turns out nice. Like I always like the way it turns out, but it's always a bit more of a process for me than it seems like it is for other people. And then the other one is stenciling. I have had these stencils in my How to Kill a Kit with Style kit since January, and I haven't been using them. So that is the technique that I chose for this particular one. And why does it intimidate me? I don't really know. It's not like there are rules to it or anything. It just, I don't know. There are some people out there that are the masters of mixed media, and just every time they touch a stencil, whatever they've done with it just turns out amazing and beautiful and perfect, and mine's always kind of a little messy, a little wonky, just never quite what I envisioned it to be. So that is my, whoops, I just knocked the camera, sorry. So that is my intimidated technique that I'm going to use. So there you saw, I just referenced that sketch one more time. I want to create that little cluster in one of the corners. So the cut file or the little cutout triangles, I backed them with some scraps of paper, and that sort of to me is like one side of this element or this design, and then I just wanted to use those exact papers on the opposite side to create a little cluster sort of similar to what Laura has in her sketch. I couldn't fully decide if I wanted to have the paper going from yellow down through the pink, or if I wanted to flip it the other way and have the yellow at the bottom. In the end, I decided to go with the yellow at the top. I just kind of liked the triangles over on that other side. So this is sort of the finished layout, and then here I'm working on one of the other Scrap 5 items, which is to use stickers. So at least 5 stickers. So I'm starting with some chipboard just because they're kind of a thicker, bigger element. And then I'll tuck a few little stickers in behind there. So that gives me 3 of my elements. Yeah, and it's just a mishmash of stickers because that's what I have out. So I think the first set, the chipboard, were from Wild Child. And then now these are from Amy Tangerine's Brave and Bold. And I'm really just looking for blues. I kind of decided that since the paper is pink and then there's the yellow, that blue would be the sort of pop of color that I was looking for. And this is our little Luna when she was just a little puppy, and she has those crystal clear kind of bluish eyes. So I thought that the blue would be a nice accent that would bring out her eyes. So now the, I guess, fourth item is to use some wood veneer. Actually, I think it's second on the list, but use some sort of wooden element, wood veneer. And so I'm just looking for something. This is my little case of like larger words and larger pieces, and I did have some puppy related ones, but nothing that really fit what I wanted to kind of have this layout look like. So I just went with a little sort of wonky circle with a heart in it. And then you can see some other wood veneer beside me on my left-hand side. Those are teeny tiny little hearts, and I will add a few of those as well. Now, of course, Laura has that circular element in hers, and I really wanted to bring that in because up to this point, I haven't done a lot that really kind of reflects back to the sketch. Again, I know I said you don't have to follow it, but I always like to try to find little elements that when someone's looking at my layout, they can say, oh yeah, I see where you got this from, kind of thing. So I went for a doily, and I thought, it is kind of a, you know, our sweet little girl puppy. It's a little bit more dainty. And so I thought the doily just brought some extra texture and that little bit of daintiness. And then it's that circular element. So it was a little bit too big. And then the other ones I had were a little bit too small. So I kind of folded it up. I've done this before a few times where I kind of scrunch up my doilies to give them a little bit of texture and movement and just make them the right size that I want. So I kind of folded it up so that it squished in the center and was just the right size so that it didn't cover any of the cutout triangles. It didn't cover too much of the texture paste that I used, and then it also didn't cover the little triangular embellishment cluster down at the bottom. And I think I forgot to mention the texture paste that I used was Vicki Bouton's Rose Gold Glaze. I know it's, you know, a few years old, but I actually still have a lot of life left in mine. It hasn't dried out at all. So it does have this beautiful kind of, you know, smooth texture that just goes through stencils really, really nicely. I don't know why I don't use it more. I tend to use it for splatters a lot more than I do actually using it as a sort of texture paste through a stencil, but I always love how it turns out. So if you have some, go and grab it. It's still a lot of fun to play with. And I don't have a ton of colorful texture pastes. I have the standard white texture paste, but I don't really have a lot of the other products. So I tend to pull this one out quite a bit. And here you can see this is how I use it for splatters. I just put a little dab of it on a paintbrush or whatever you want to use to splatter, wet it down so it's nice and workable, and then I just splatter it all over. And then the last element is to use some ribbon. So you can see there I have my little ribbon bows that I made, kind of holding the banner just like in Laura's sketch. And that's it. That's my layout for this month. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Please go and check out all the links below for everybody joining in with Scrap 5 and the playlist link for everyone who's been playing along with a full month of 30 days of sketches. If you have any questions, you can leave them for me down below. And until next time, happy scrapping. Bye.